Are you ready to rewind? Take a nostalgia-filled ride back to a simpler time. It's Acid Wash Memories, a retro pop culture celebration. And now your hosts, Joe Murata and Michael Quinn.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to episode number 75 of Acid Wash Memories, a retro pop culture celebration. Today we're talking about the O.J. Simpson chase. Yes, I am Joe Murata, and riding along with me is Michael Quinn. Hello there, Michael.
Howdy ho.
Howdy ho.
Yeah,
how you doing over there?
We're here.
We're ready to get into
this monumental event in American history.
It really is. And folks, if this happens to be your first time listening to this monumental podcast, I want to tell you that we are a retro pop culture celebration. Each week is something completely different. Not every week is focused on vehicle chases.
No.
This is the only one, actually, that we've ever done.
I mean, car chases are a popular topic for, the news, as far as, the news loves that.
They did. And in 1994, they really loved it.
They still love it. The local news always catches if there's, a chase in the local area.
That's a good point.
They love to, step right in. It's like, we're cutting off all the program. There's a chase.
That's right. And, folks, we appreciate you chasing us down. If you could please follow us on Twitter, or X, I guess it's officially known as now.
Yeah, X.
Yeah, X, at AWM Podcast, and join our very friendly Facebook group called Acid Wash Memories on Facebook. We would really appreciate that. So we're talking about this here, and a lot of you know that, but some people that listen to this show, believe it or not, are not in the United States of America, so they wouldn't have experienced this in real time, or perhaps really heard much about it.
They might have been really young, too.
And there's other people that are younger than we are, and we're not particularly old. We are elder millennials, but we wanted to recap this because on June 17th, 1994, all of America seemingly ground to a halt.
I'm going to have to interrupt this call. I understand we're going to go to a live picture in Los Angeles.
Everyone just did not move. They went to their TVs and just watched.
Just watch. And what they were watching was a low-speed police chase.
Fugitive being pursued by police as the nation held its breath.
America was mesmerized, captivated, engrossed, and our attention was focused solely on this. Plans were put on hold, and a multitude of police cruisers kept a very close distance from a white Bronco. And in that white Bronco, a decorated former NFL star.
Because even talking about him as a football player, it seems like you're missing, we're overlooking the obvious.
A spokesperson for various products.
Only Hurts has #1 club goal.
An actor at times.
An actor?
An actor?
Hiya, buddy. Hey, Doc says I should be on my beat in this good new of the week.
O.J. Simpson.
Yes.
Now, I want to preface this
the
here.
The juice was loose.
The juice was loose, Quinn. I want to preface this here to be very clear. I think we all know about the trial.
Right.
That took place in 1995. There have been...
This is not about the trial.
No, there have been documentaries. There have been dramatizations. The thing with fucking David Schwimmer,
Marsha Clark's hair.
Yeah. Cuba Gooding Jr., Judge Ito. This has been well documented. We're talking about what led to that. June 1994, when the public was fascinated by a sunny drive on a California freeway. But first, Quinn, what's orange juice?
What's orange juice? Well, it's a drink that made from orange concentrate, I suppose.
Oh, okay.
You squeeze the juice from this fruit called an orange. Sometimes you take the pulp out, sometimes you don't. It depends on... A lot of people prefer the pulp. Some people don't like the pulp.
That's a good point.
Some people like some pulp.
Right.
But that's what orange juice is.
Folks, so listen to your pulp preferences here at AWM Podcast. But this is not a pulp fiction, Quinn. This actually really happened. And sorry. Again, remember, this is not about the trial. It's not about the murders even. This has been well covered. We're talking about why this chase captivated America.
Although before we get started, I do want to emphasize a real murder took place here.
Yeah, two of them.
Two of them. This is based off a real serious thing. It's just that this particular thing was very fucking weird in general.
We are in no way here to make light
or minimize any of what happened to anybody or whatever.
Absolutely not. We're talking about this one day, these couple of hours really, on a Friday evening here in America.
Yes.
That's all we're really talking about.
The Los Angeles Police Department right now is actively searching for Mr. Simpson.
And again, for those of you that either are too young, because we do have younger listeners, or those of you perhaps that are overseas or in another country and did not experience this, let's talk about why. And the first thing we need to do to discuss why is talk about the man himself, O.J. Simpson. So he was born in 1947.
Orenthal J. Simpson, as I will never forget for the rest of my life.
Orenthal James Simpson in San Francisco was always known as O.J., even as a kid. Because how do you not?
I mean, it's a long name.
Yeah, it's a lot easier to just say O.J.
You think maybe of O.J.
He overcame rickets as a kid. He joined a gang as a teenager, and then he found his way into high school football. Jim Ross would be very happy.
I like football. High school football, college football, fucking night school football. I like it.
He graduated in 1965, played for, at first, the City College of San Francisco, running back and defensive back, played both ways. And in 1967, he enrolled in the University of Southern California, USC, as a running back for the Trojans.
Southern California with Toby Page at quarterback, giving to O.J. Simpson, number 32.
He was the Trojans' rushing leader in 1967 and 1968. I said rushing, not Russian. He wasn't like a czar.
No.
That's a different thing.
He could run with the football.
He was good at it.
Could rush.
And this led him to being, yes, he could rush. This led to him being drafted by, of course, the NFL as part of the AFL NFL draft in 1969.
Nice.
This was still when we were separating these two things.
Very towards the end of that. O.J. struggled for his first few seasons on the Buffalo Bills, but 1972 was his breakout season. He was actually the NFL Player of the Year in 73. And his career, as football players are wont to do to this day, if you're really good and really successful, you get a bit of a public profile.
Right.
And that's what happened in the 70s. His stats were incredible. His popularity increased throughout the mid-70s. He was in 6 Pro Bowls throughout the course of his career.
He became like a popular sports figure of the day.
Well said, Quinn, yeah.
LeBron James.
Exactly.
Or,
succinctly said. Like LeBron James is a great example. Or even maybe not in the superstar level of LeBron, but still notable.
Joe Montana or
there you go.
any sportsman, Michael Jordan Scottie Pippen.
What about Phil Mickelson?
Phil Mickelson. Any sportsman you can think of that's famous in some way. He was at that level. He wasn't like that. I play for the NFL, but nobody's ever heard of you.
Right,
it's like he was a known name.
He was a known name.
RC, a great cola taste that's easy on the syrup, easy on the gas. For people like O.J. Simpson, who can't stop drinking cola.
He did get injured in 1977 and was traded to the San Francisco 49ers for the 1978 season. And due to his injuries, he actually retired in 1979. He played his last game December 16th, 79, age 32, which is a little young for football, but certainly a lot of football players retire in their early 30s.
I feel like in that era, it was more common for the running types, not the quarterbacks maybe, but the running types to retire much earlier than even they do now. Because, they didn't have the technology to, lengthen your career and all this other stuff that they do now.
And not only that, the toll that takes on you.
I'm pretty sure it was fairly normal in your early 30s if you were like a rushing player of some kind, a running. That's you're done. You go.
Again, that's not a Russian player.
Yeah.
We just want to clarify the terminology here.
Oh, shut up.
Anyway, at the time he retired in 1979, he was number 2 on the all-time NFL rushing list.
To be fair, the NFL hadn't been around very long by this point, so
fair, Quinn, fair. But I'm saying all this for a reason, to give you an idea of the playing career and why he was catapulted into the pop culture zeitgeist well before 1994. Because in the midst of his playing career, he was already dabbling in acting.
Yes.
He was on a show called Medical Center in 1969.
You were dizzy yesterday. Man, I ran into a goalpost.
He had a small role in, remember Roots, the acclaimed miniseries from
Roots.
77? He had a role in that.
That was a very popular thing.
It was.
One of the highest rated things ever.
I watched it when it was replayed. Obviously, I wasn't alive in 77, but I watched it replayed. It's really good. Most famously, though, O.J. was the spokesperson for Hertz rental service.
Yes, I would say that this really kind of catapulted him in the eye of the
everyday,
the zeitgeist, if you will.
Winners go with winners. Winners rent from Hertz. Hertz is number 1, with more Fords and other fine cars waiting for you, with more people to help you, with more services to get you in and out of a car fast. No wonder the presidents of over 80% of America's top 500 companies carry Hertz cards.
The Maytag guy, or Dave Thomas, or somebody you just see on commercials every day.
Yeah, back when commercials were very much watched as
Yes.
well because, I mean, you didn't have a choice. There was like no VCR yet and all this.
No, because he started in 75.
Right.
And OJ really made a huge difference in Hertz's revenue and brand awareness, pulled them way ahead of their number 2 competitor, which was Avis.
Yes.
So I remember when OJ was still doing the Hertz commercials.
Yeah,
It was in the
he was
early
kind of
90s.
like, he was kind of like the Hertz spokesperson for a while.
Oh, yeah, he was the guy. I mean, that's what I knew him for. You'd see him running, and stuff, because we're running back.
He's got the bag or whatever.
Yeah, he was rushing.
Yeah.
Again, not Russian,
He was
okay?
rushing the bag instead
the bag
of
to get his rental car.
Yeah.
Why did Hertz invent #1 Club Gold service? To beat the rush hour. See, every plane and everybody seems to land at once.
I want to note something here. In stark contrast to how his name was perceived anytime after 1994, up to that time, throughout the 70s, throughout the 80s, and well into the into 1994 even, the public persona of O.J. Simpson was viewed as amiable,
yes,
upstanding, clean-cut, likable, charismatic.
Yes.
And again, if you're younger, we're right on the threshold. We remember both versions, right?
Yes.
If you're younger, you may think OJ and are just like, yeah, that guy.
According to retailers, the most popular Halloween mask this year is O.J. Simpson.
But up to the early 90s, this was like a likable, lovable fellow.
Yes.
You know what I mean?
Yes.
And that's one thing to really firmly establish here. Remember, so much so, Quinn, when we did our Seinfeld episode a few episodes back, available in the archives, there's an episode where Elaine is dating a guy named Joel Rifkin.
Right.
Which is a killer, right?
Mm-hmm.
The name, not the character on the show. And she really wants him to change his name. And one of the names she suggests is OJ.
Because he was known as, again, like just Mr. Smiley Face. Everyone likes him.
Okay, then let's see. What do we got? OJ! OJ Rifkin! Oh, you can't even use a name, it's just initials. Oh, please change your name to OJ. Please, it would be so great.
But anyway, he was so likable, in fact, that he was one of the original considerations for Terminator in 1984.
Really?
Yes, but you know why he wound up not doing it, or they didn't want him to? Because he was viewed at the time as too nice.
Well, I mean, the Terminator
likable.
is called the Terminator for a reason.
He's a heel, to refresh everyone's memory. In the first movie, big heel.
Yeah, he got so over that they basically turned him face in Terminator 2.
They Steve Austin'd him, basically.
They're just like, because all the kids were like, he's so cool, the Terminator, right? It's like, he's a freaking murdering robot.
Right.
Like, what the hell? Like, why do people like him?
Exactly. Another thing that OJ was pretty popular for, again, this really raised his profile, was the trilogy of very funny Leslie Nielsen movies known as the Naked Gun series.
That's like the 1-2 punch with OJ. Is there's the Hertz and the Naked Gun.
Absolutely.
Because that played to his smiley man, like everyone likes him thing, right?
Exactly. Those were in 88, 91, and 94 when the third one
and
came
what was he,
out.
one of the cops or something? Like,
Yes, and if I catch the guy who did
Captain, they just finished searching the building. Now, there's no sign of a break-in, and there's no money missing. Man, this was one hell of an explosion. Still trying to figure out what they used.
Any other victims? You're standing on one right now.
He also worked as a broadcaster for the NFL.
which is like every famous ex-football man. Or basketball or whatever. You always end up at the desk.
Baseball.
Yeah.
So he was on NBC, and then he did Monday Night Football from 83 to 85, and went back to NBC from 89 until 94. So he was still doing this in 1994.
Well, Jim, if the Bills were happy with the first half, they certainly didn't show it. Very somber group of guys coming in. There was no talk about great first half. No talk about one more half. No talk at all. Each player were tied into their own thoughts. They seem to be saying to themselves, we're going to talk and celebrate when this game is over.
On a personal level, in 1977, so that would place him at age 30, he met a lady named Nicole Brown.
Right.
She was 18 years old. They began dating while he was married.
Well,
he got divorced in 1979 and married Nicole Brown in 1985. Now, to spare the details, because again, we're here to just get you to the chase. We're going to cut to the chase pretty soon.
Exactly.
Yeah, ha, ha, ha.
Thank you. They did not have a good marriage. There were a lot of domestic disputes and issues and
it was
things.
like documented, like the cops had to come and all this shit.
Yes.
Like, so it, again, this isn't the day of E-News and like everyone just like knows this, right? It was kind of like kept on the hush-hush download, like only the neighbors knew about this, like, and the other famous people.
And maybe it would creep its way into the tabloids and stuff, but those weren't ever taken seriously anyway.
Yeah.
You know, like the grocery checkout line magazines.
It wasn't commonly known that OJ had a domestic abuser background before this. It wasn't.
The everyday person wouldn't know that.
Yeah.
You know, those who care about following celebrity news and stuff will, but that's not everybody.
But it wasn't like, again, like now it would probably, like the minute even that happened, like it would be announced on Twitter and whatnot. But back then, nobody had any, like it was just something that happened.
Your average guy or gal watching TV, they didn't know. But anyway, because of all of this, in early 92, Nicole Brown filed for divorce from O.J. Simpson. And again, we know what happened to both Nicole Brown and Ron Goldman on June 12th, 1994. Okay, we're not here to discuss the details of that. But after that, the police were on the scene on that night on June 12th, 1994, to begin an investigation, the LAPD.
Right.
That same night, O.J. Was due to go to Chicago for a Hertz convention the next day, and he did. His limo driver had showed up to pick him up, bring him to the airport. He did catch the flight, landed in O'Hare, did the deal in Chicago, came back. Meanwhile, the LAPD is still investigating, including speaking to Kato Kalin, who you may know from the O.J. trial, and only that.
Kato Kalin has been looking for a starring role since his 4th year in college. That's when he dropped out of school to pursue a career in Hollywood.
Otherwise known as the guy that lived in the house in the back, or say the guest house.
That's appropriate, by the way, for this guy. Like, you know, because it's L.A. and it's like, I'm going to be an actor.
He looks like he went to Ridgemont High.
He does. Listen, there are certain things.
There's certain characters in this story that are just, what the fuck?
Like, not to poke fun at anybody, but who the fuck would Kato Kalin be if it wasn't for this trial?
Well, okay, so I'll say this about him. He looks like an aspiring actor. He's like good looking and like, you know, that kind of thing. Like
he does, but
yeah, I'm just saying he looks like a dude trying to become an actor in Hollywood. Like you never heard of him, but he's good looking, right? Which is like the one prerequisite to get hired in Hollywood.
I guess, but if we have anyone out in Hollywood listening, I don't mean working in Hollywood, but it's just out there in the general, you know.
Does he not look like he would be cast on Baywatch or something?
Yeah.
Like, come on.
Or like a Baywatch knockoff, perhaps, to start with,
he
right?
absolutely looks like that.
Or hemorrhoid commercials, Quinn. It's both sides, really.
It's like a guy that was hoping to be cast on Baywatch, but then got tangled up in this before he made his Baywatch appearance, so this is what he became known for. Yeah, like, you know what I'm saying?
He'd be like a villain on Baywatch, though.
Maybe.
He wouldn't be a face. He'd seem to be a face, and then you'd find that he's like
to
an
me,
asshole.
he has the look of a guy, though, that would have eventually appeared, but he would not be nearly as famous as he was because of this trial.
I think that's a good way to put it.
You know?
Good way to put it.
He's gotten mostly bit parts, though he did land larger roles in such steamy features as Beach Fever.
No way.
Anyway, one thing leads to another around this time, and the police are starting to suspect OJ because he had blood in his car. He was behaving weirdly. He said the blood in his car was from a cut on his finger.
Right.
One thing leads to another here, right? And OJ gets his lawyer at the time, Robert Shapiro was his main attorney, who then began rounding up other attorneys, which we know in the trial would lead to the Dream Team,
right.
You know, F. Lee Bailey, Johnny Cochran, but also OJ's friend, Robert Kardashian,
right?
Who is famous for giving Kris Jenner a career.
Famous for birthing Kim Kardashian and friends.
Yeah, well, not birthing, but siring.
Siring, sorry, yes, siring.
No, is that the first usage of the word siring on this podcast?
I used birthing accidentally, but you're right, it is siring. It's not birthing.
No, the Kris Jenner did that part.
She did the birthing, he did the siring. They're two different things.
Not Russian, though.
Yeah.
That's enough.
Anyway, OJ stayed at Rob Kardashian's house, and by the way, anytime I say his name now, I can't get David Schwimmer's stupid face out of my head.
I was just going to say,
it's irritating.
Like Rob Kardashian, otherwise known as Ross from Friends.
Hi. He's always Ross.
Yeah.
No matter what Band of Brothers, he was Ross.
It was very weird deciding that they were going to Mr. Sheffield Ross so he could be Robert Kardashian.
You mean the gray streak?
Yeah.
It's great, Quinn. Folks, we have to add some levity to this because we are talking about something that is pretty serious, but again, we're assuming that you know the details.
Right. Pretty famously, though, Robert Kardashian, of all the people on the team, was like highly sus of OJ after the fact.
He was.
He started out like his friend, and then he started realizing shit, right?
This is true. I mean, they dramatize that a bit in that
but
series.
That's known. He said that or something before he died.
He did say it before he died, yeah. So anyway, OJ's at his house on the 16th and into June 17th, which is a Friday. And on that Friday, June 17th, the LAPD informed Robert Shapiro, OJ's attorney, that OJ Simpson had to turn himself in that day.
Detectives from the Los Angeles Police Department, after an exhaustive investigation, sought and obtained a warrant for the arrest of O.J. Simpson, charging him with the murders of Nicole Brown Simpson and Ronald Lyle Goldman.
OJ agreed to turn himself in at 11 a.m. that day. That was his agreement. And the LAPD said, fine, he's a celebrity. He's not going to flee.
Yeah, I mean, everyone knows he can't hide.
We know who he is.
Everyone in America knows who he is.
Correct.
Mr. Simpson, in agreement with his attorney, was scheduled to surrender this morning to the Los Angeles Police Department. Initially, that was 11 o'clock. It then became 11:45. Mr. Simpson has not appeared.
So when they arrive at Rob Kardashian's house, where OJ was staying, OJ and his friend Al Cowlings were gone.
The Los Angeles Police Department is also very unhappy with the activities surrounding his failure to surrender. And we will be looking further into those activities, including anyone that may have intervened on his behalf.
So at 1:50 p.m., the LAPD issued an all-points bulletin which named Orenthal James Simpson as a fugitive
of the law.
Mr. Simpson is out there somewhere, and we will find him.
At 5 p.m. that day, Robert Kardashian read to the media what sounded like a suicide note from OJ, where he also denied any involvement in the murders of Nicole Brown Simpson and Ron Goldman.
To whom it may concern. First, everyone understand I had nothing to do with Nicole's murder. I know you have a job to do, but as a last wish, please, please, please leave my children in peace. Their lives will be tough enough.
Meanwhile now, because we have a fugitive, this should have gotten Tommy Lee Jones, because he knows what the fuck he's doing with a fugitive, by the way.
Because I don't want to get shot! And Harrison Ford also is good at being a fugitive.
Maybe OJ was talking to him.
Yeah.
Anyway, news helicopters were searching the California freeways there in SoCal for a vehicle owned by Al Cowlings, a white Ford Bronco.
Yes.
Now, this Bronco, this led to Bronco sales increasing, believe it or not, this chase. It did.
I mean, it's not a good advertisement, I would say, but it definitely gets the word out that the Bronco is a vehicle that you can purchase at your local
friendly Ford
dealer. Yeah.
Ford Lincoln Mercury, perhaps.
Yeah. With its new aerodynamic design, fuel-injected V6 engine, and a new, more versatile interior, you can definitely say it's made for the best of times.
Anyway, at 5:51 p.m., OJ called 911. He had a cell phone. He was a celebrity in 94. You know, most of them had it. The call was traced to the Santa Ana Freeway in California. At 6:20 p.m., a driver on a highway informed the highway patrol that he saw what he thought was OJ in that white Bronco.
I think I just saw OJ Simpson on the 5 freeway.
And so the chase was on. Before we get to the chase here, let's just recap where we're at. We've got a guy that had a good football career.
Right.
Like, he had a troubled youth. He had some things, but good football career.
He's long since from his troubled youth. I mean, this is we're many years later. He's older now.
Like he's 47 here, right? Public persona-wise, unless you're, again, clued into some of the domestic issues that he had. And again, some people were, but most of America wasn't, right?
Yeah.
Your perception of OJ up to this time, on June 17, 94, is that guy that's in the Naked Gun movies.
Yeah.
The Hertz guy, the guy that does the football commentary.
Right. So, like, again, it was touchy. Everyone had their own opinion on the situation, right? But you could see why a huge chunk of the population were like, he couldn't have done it. He's the Hertz guy, or
Right.
like, you know what I mean? Like, it's
Yeah.
like, so you've got an element of the population like rooting for him, like he's being unjustly chased. Like this is wrong. He couldn't have done this, right?
Yeah.
I mean, that's part of the element here. But I do want to kind of rewind back a little bit if we can.
Yeah.
A lot of like what's going on here is traced in the riots from
92?
92, a couple years back.
The Rodney King riots?
The Rodney King riots, right? Because that's important to understand as like an element of this as far as the response and what was going on here. This played into a lot of the reaction to the OJ chase because this informed how the cops were going to respond to this situation because they did not want to trigger another riot that was so fresh in their minds.
In the same general area, too, of
Right.
Southern California.
Exactly.
And also, we're dealing with a celebrity.
Yes.
And like it or not, folks, celebrities are generally dealt with differently.
Yes.
They just are.
Yes.
So with all of that said, knowing that we've got news choppers who are always in the sky anyway, doing traffic and stuff, right? They're looking for the Bronco.
Right.
The Highway Patrol is looking for the Bronco. O.J. Simpson is a fugitive. The only thing left to do is cut to the chase, and we're going to do that on the other side of this break. Before we do, why don't we rest up here because we've got a long, slow drive ahead of us, Quinn.
We've got quite a drive ahead of us.
We
yeah.
certainly do. Folks, we will be back on the other side of this break. We're going to talk about that chase that interrupted every program on television on June 17th, 1994, and we're going to try to put our finger on why this captivated everyone. All of that coming up when more Acid Wash Memories returns.
Firsts.
Waited 54 years for this.
A day of lasts.
Arnold Palmer, his last round of golf in the U.S. Open.
Triumphs.
Go Knicks!
And tragedy.
Mr. Simpson is a fugitive of justice right now.
A day that the modern world changed.
Can't make this. Don't do this. Don't do it, OJ.
The greatest sports stories of our time. June 17th, 1994.
Hi, this is David Hasselhoff. You know me as Chief Lifeguard Lieutenant Mitch Buchanan from the hit series Baywatch. But I want to share with you my special passion, music. Please help me jumpstart summer with my first American concert. David Hasselhoff and my friends from Baywatch, and my very special guest, Marla Maples Trump, coming to you live June 17th on pay-per-view.
Dave Thomas is thinking about the perfect cheese for Wendy's new chicken sandwich.
So I'm thinking mozzarella. Really? My first choice would be Munster.
It had to have just the right flavor.
How about Camembert? Over mozzarella? No way. Dave, think Gouda.
And it had to be delicious. Introducing Wendy's Mozzarella Chicken Supreme. A whole breast filet cooked golden brown. Mozzarella and a creamy Parmesan sauce.
Still thinking Gouda?
Not anymore.
And now we return to more acid-washed memories.
And welcome back to Acid Wash Memories, a retro pop culture celebration. This is episode number 75, talking about the O.J. Simpson chase. I'm Joe Morata, and Michael Quinn is still here with me. Hello,
I'm here.
Michael. Folks, we really do appreciate you being with us. A bit of an unorthodox topic, but I mean, it's been 30 years now. And I still remember. Do you remember it?
I feel like it's been more than 30 years. It feels like forever ago.
You saw it live, though, right?
I did.
I mean, I think if you were watching television, you had to see it live.
I mean, everything shut down. This was all you could watch. Suddenly
Yeah.
it was like, because I know I wanted to watch the Knicks do battle.
Oh, yeah.
With who? The Houston Rockets?
Houston Rockets freaking kicked our asses.
Yeah, but I mean, I was
Hakeem Olajuwon,
interested
man.
in that.
So was I.
You know, in a weird way, I feel like that inadvertently brought specifically the New York area into
Yup.
it, right? Because
Yes.
it's like it was very rare that the Knicks were even involved in anything
Well, that
important,
was the
right?
thing.
It was like
Jordan's out of the friggin' league finally.
Yeah.
We got a chance to do it. We can't do it.
and now we have to watch this OJ chase.
I know.
But actually, to be fair, I remember thinking to myself, this is way more compelling than a basketball game, even when I was a kid.
There might be some merit to that, Quinn. But folks, really, let us know if you have any specific or interesting memories of watching this when it happened, where you were. Maybe you were in the turlet and you heard the breaking news, or maybe you were out to eat at a bar, at home, you were a kid, you were an adult. I mean, we got a very wide spate of people that listen to us, Quinn.
It is weird, though, that if you think about the timing, that it was on a Friday night and people cared enough to, stop. Nobody, everyone, if they were at a bar, they watched it on a TV. If they were, it didn't matter.
Home,
it did. Everyone was watching this specifically.
It fascinated America.
Yeah.
And that's what we're trying to put our fingers on here. And folks, if you could put your fingers on Twitter and follow us at AWM Podcast, we would love that. Join our Facebook group. And hey, if you like what we do here, if you could leave us a review on your podcast app of choice, we'd really appreciate that. And again, I hope it's clear that we're not making light of what happened to Nicole Brown Simpson. We're not making light of any of that stuff. It's not funny. There's no humor in that.
And that's why I wanted to, I explicitly said earlier that a lot of this is how it was so surreal that it eclipsed why it was even happening. Was I felt forgotten in all of it. It was just so weird.
And I think the ensuing media circus from this point on to the trial ending, and even the aftermath of that.
Well, if anything, this event triggered anybody caring about the trial.
That's the point, right? This was really the catalyst, the detonator for what was to follow, and consumed all of TV for the better part of 1995.
Yeah, I mean, it was every single day. It's weird too because usually on the world news they talk about, I don't know, what the president's doing or
something in another country,
some war
right?
or something or whatever. But instead they were talking about a trial in California every day as the lead story.
Making household names of Marcia Clark and Christopher Darden.
Yeah, I'm talking, this is on the world news.
Yes.
It's everyone's talking about this.
Ted Koppel was probably talking about it. I'm sure he was.
America clearly was obsessed with the O.J. Simpson trial, and while I didn't think that it warranted the kind of nightly coverage that it was getting, for example, on Larry King's program, I was hard-pressed to be able to avoid doing an update on the O.J. Simpson trial once every 6 or 7 broadcasts.
Anyway, where we left off, it was about 6:20 p.m. where a driver on a highway noticed, that's O.J. Simpson. So the chase was on. Now, this chase, you've seen it on TV, I'm sure, or if you've ever watched WrestleMania 12, you've seen it, which is in 1996.
Yeah, you've seen a repeat of it a year later.
2 years.
I've got to say it. This footage looks awfully familiar, these shots.
To be fair, the OJ, stuff was still, going on.
Oh, I know. Seinfeld got in on it. Remember with their version?
I mean, it had I feel like it had a 2-year reverberation through the zeitgeist, where it was still a thing people talked about.
Lucky us.
Yeah.
But at 6:45 p.m., the white Bronco was spotted on the 405, and the trooper, Ruth Dixon, caught up to the driver. Al Cowlings was driving, and he yelled that OJ had a gun to his head. So she backed off and followed the Bronco about 35 miles per hour. This is on a highway.
Mm-hmm.
Now, Quinn, even I know you're not a big highway guy, but even you drive faster than 35 on the highway.
Of course, yeah. You're going to get destroyed.
Yeah. So the Bronco's going 35, thus the trooper backs off and follows at 35. And in a pretty memorable image, you now see about 20 additional police cruisers following.
I would liken it to, if you've ever seen the Mighty Ducks, it's like the flying V of troopers are behind OJ at this point, right? They're in flying V formation, right?
That's the reference.
The flying wing or whatever they called it in that movie.
But there's that's how real birds fly. You don't need to see the Mighty Ducks to know about
I know, but I'm just saying from a lot of sports fans were watching this.
That's not that's
Mighty Ducks is a sports movie.
I know.
Sports film.
It is, and that's why there was the real Anaheim Mighty Ducks later. Anyway, yes, you're right. The flying V formation. Emilio Estevez is part of it.
He's on the lead.
Yeah. Knuckle puck.
Yeah.
Anyway.
He's from California. Could have been. You never know.
You're right. I didn't expect a Mighty Ducks reference. I'm sorry. You caught me on that one.
Just very notable in my head. I was like, hey, that's the flying V.
It's also a guitar. Anyway, CBS's news helicopter, that's obviously Los Angeles CBS, not New York, because they didn't fly all the way over.
Right.
They got involved, and then another 9 news helicopters were covering in this, okay?
Again, to bring you up to date, we believe that car belongs to Al Collings, who was a lifetime friend of O.J. Simpson and disappeared with him today from a home in the San Fernando Valley as police were closing in to make an arrest.
I mean, this was on like every channel.
Everywhere.
And then you got to factor in the local channels too, get their own choppers in there.
Yes, right. So, and this is where it broke on TV, was right around this time where all the choppers in the air, everyone's getting their footage.
This is a special report from New England's News Center 5.
Good evening, everyone. I'm Susan Warnick. There is another bizarre twist in the O.J. Simpson story tonight. Police believe that they have found Mr. Simpson. What you're looking at now is video provided to us this evening by television station KABC.
So if you were watching, for example, the very good NBA Finals, the Knicks, unfortunately, you know what happened there.
Right.
Game 5.
I blame this for them losing.
Exactly. And this is when the series was tied 2-2.
Right.
This is a pivotal game.
6:39 remaining in this first half. Knicks by 2.
We are looking at live pictures of Interstate 5 in Los Angeles. We believe that white vehicle, which is being trailed by a phalanx of California Highway Patrol cars and helicopters, belongs to Al Collings, who disappeared with O.J. Simpson earlier today, shortly after Mr. Simpson was informed that he was going to be formally charged with the murder of his wife and the young man who was with her at the time.
It broke on CNN, obviously, and all the news channels, but it broke on CBS, ABC, Pix 11 here,
Fox.
Fox.
It didn't matter. NBC.
I guarantee you, like the local public education channels picked up a feed from somewhere.
I wouldn't be surprised if TBS Superstation didn't cut in somehow.
Yeah, they probably did.
They probably started piping in the CNN footage because they were the same company.
True.
Literally, like everything turned off. I don't remember. I think I specifically remember that you couldn't escape it if you went to a cable channel.
Right.
It's like they started because all the networks were owned by all the cable networks were usually owned by all the other ones, like the main people.
Yes.
So they were just piping in their news channels footage over this, right?
Yeah.
They were like, no, everyone has to watch this right now.
I'm sure WGN got it, all of the station, the cable superstations, everybody. And all of the news presence led to cross-channel interference across all the news channels, which is never happens, you know what I mean?
This was so popular, this event, that it just absorbed television.
It did.
It just nothing. Even the radio was talking. You could hear about it on the radio.
Yeah.
It didn't matter if it did sound or video and sound. You were seeing it.
It's true though.
I'm surprised they didn't shut down the movie theaters and start piping that in through the
closed circuit broadcast of the OJ chase.
Yeah.
And speaking of radio, KNXAM was hosting a sports radio show. And on the show, they called OJ's former USC coach, John McKay, who got on the air and tried to talk to OJ and say, don't do anything stupid. You know what I mean? His football coach on a radio show.
Well, the idea was that OJ's got a radio, and they can't be watching the TV. They can only be listening to the radio. So now people are trying to, talk to him through the fucking radio.
Yes.
They're like, don't do it, OJ.
Walter Payton called in. And he's like, stop. Don't do anything stupid, because remember, the gun report, that's the main thing.
Everyone started becoming extremely concerned about the gun situation, right? That's what everyone cared about more.
And maybe it's a combination of his celebrity, but also that it was a low-speed chase, too.
Right.
You know what I mean? Because could they have caught up to the Bronco? Yes.
Well, they could have gotten real violent. They could have started putting down the spike tracks and all this shit.
They could have done they could have pit maneuvered the vehicle. They could have done a lot of shit.
Okay, so in this again, this is why I bring up the riots. I do personally believe, I don't know if this is exactly what was going on, but the kid gloves approach that they took to it, I truly feel was part of trying to avoid a public outrage over how they handled this, because the LAPD was under quite some heat.
They were. Again, we're speculating here, folks. We're not experts, so please let us know what you think. I think that's an element of it. I think the other element is it's a celebrity.
Right.
And I think the other element, as he said, that he had a gun.
Right.
I think it's all three of those things.
It's all of it combined, but obviously they did not want an attempt to violently stop this, right? They wanted...
Evidently not.
Because if you think about it logically, right? So you're in a situation where violence is kind of off the table here because of various factors.
Yes.
So if you think logically, he's in a vehicle, it's either going to run out of gas or he's got to stop
and get gas. Yeah.
And get more gas.
Right.
So in essence, all you have to do is just keep vehicles following this thing that can refill gas, and they can be people that come in and replace those vehicles, and you can run down the clock.
You know, it's funny you mentioned that because this went on for so long that one of the news copters had to actually stop and refuel.
Right,
that's
exactly.
how long this lasted.
Right, and I think that was the strategy. I mean, you can kind of deduce that just by seeing how long they kind of they're like, okay, just let him keep going.
We'll just follow him.
We'll follow him all night if that's how long it takes for his tank to deplete.
It is weird. That might be part of the appeal from like just a pop culture sensationalism thing. Is it was a very rare low speed chase.
Yeah,
35 miles an hour.
Right.
Like normally when you're watching a chase, it's like it's a chase. You know what I mean?
Super dangerous.
No, 35 is very leisurely pace for the highway. There's no obstacles. It's a highway.
But they, obviously that allowed them to I imagine they were in communication through the cell phone with the driver, right?
They were with Al Collins.
Yeah, they're like, what's he doing? Like.
911, what are you reporting? This is AC. I have OJ in the car. Okay, where are you? Please, I'm coming up the 5 freeways. Okay. Right now, we are okay, but you gotta tell the police to just back off. He's still alive, but he got a gun to his head. Is everything else okay? Everything right now is okay, officer. Everything is okay. All out. He wants me to get him to his mom. He wants me to get him to his house. Okay. So that's all we ask. He got a gun to his head. Okay, and what's your name? My name is AC. You know who I am, goddammit.
All sorts of shit. It was just crazy. So the media frenzy here, as I mentioned, it interrupted the NBA friggin' finals for a bit. Everyone interrupted their regular programming. So if you want to watch whatever your Friday night program, well, you're screwed. It's all preempted
we were
now.
in for the long run, America. I mean, we were going to watch this until the very end, which we all did.
In fact, approximately 95 million people watched this.
You know what's kind of funny about that statistic, though? I feel like it's not like an accomplishment, because if it's the only thing you can watch, that means basically the 100% of the United States viewing, television viewing population, they only have one choice.
Well, you're right.
You know what I mean?
I did want to throw the comparison out that
of course it's going to be like the highest rated thing ever, because it's a 100% chance that you're watching this.
That's almost 100 million people.
Right.
By comparison, the Super Bowl that same year, 90 million people saw that. So this is like on Super Bowl levels,
it's more than, but again, that's because the Super Bowl is only on one channel. This is on every channel.
I understand that. As far as NBC, I just want to mention they did pick up the finals again, because it's a fucking important basketball game.
Right. I feel like they were the only ones that had to probably actively make a decision at this point. Like they were like, there's two important things happening. Which one do we choose?
Well, here's how they mediated that. They had Bob Costas as the go-between between Marv Albert, who was calling the game, and Tom Brokaw, who was calling the chase, basically. Yeah. And there was just a split screen.
That's a good idea. I agree with that.
This is a very unstable situation for them. All these people gathered, a man with a gun. They want to give him as much room as they possibly can. They don't want anyone to be hurt. They'll let this wind down as best they can. But at the same time, they'll be taking this moment by moment because it is so delicate.
Thank you, Tom. As we mentioned earlier, it is difficult to make the transition from what is taking place in Southern California, but of course we will keep you posted on developments.
Now, ABC, this is what I love about ABC. Quinn and I are ABC 7 guys around here, right?
ABC's coverage, it's specifically because of a certain moment that it went to, like, I would say the best coverage.
Yes. So first of all, they call in the big guns, and when you're watching TV and something gets interrupted, you're going to see one of two people, and we saw them both, Barbara Walters and Peter Jennings.
I mean, it was we're not screwing around here. Like ABC's getting the top tier talent for this one.
I love it because those are like their top two in '94, right?
Yeah.
Like there's no fucking around,
and they usually never tag team because Barbara Walters is on 2020, whereas Peter's on the World News. Yeah,
exactly. So they're both there, and this leads. This is a moment of levity. We have to mention this because Quinn and I have always found this funny.
It's one of the most incredible news moments I've ever seen in my life.
So Peter Jennings takes a call, I'm going to dump some of this in,
Yes.
Yes,
and this is, can we just take, before we even get to the call, can we take a moment to, it was very rare on the world news that they would even take a call.
Right.
Like, they're like what?
Yeah, this isn't Larry King.
Yeah, it's like, they don't take calls. Like, this is too important. We don't get, like, eyewitnesses that aren't filtered through our people, right? It's like, but no, we're calling regular ass, it's like somebody called up the world news. It was like, I see the chase.
Yeah.
And, like, this is what happened.
So we get a call, and the guy, I can see OJ, this is the tenses, all these things.
Just going to ask everybody to be quiet for a moment. We have on the phone with us as well Robert Higgins, who lives in the neighborhood and is on the ground and can see inside the van. Mr. Higgins.
Yes, how are you?
Just about as tense as you are, sir.
Oh, my Lord, this is quite the tensest.
Okay, we have to explain where we're at, right?
Where are we at, Quinn?
So OJ's in the driveway.
Yes.
Like, and we're this lasted for like 45 minutes to an hour.
Yes, this is the end.
We're like, what's gonna like happen? Is they gonna shoot him when he gets out of his car or what? Like, everyone's like, this is kind of like the finale, right?
This is where the finale is.
And Peter's talking all quietly, and there's the car, and
there he is
and this is his mother's house, and
Brentwood, California.
Blah blah blah, right? And then we have a call from an eyewitness in the neighborhood, and then the call gets on, and it's just...
Can you see?
Oh, what I'm looking at right now is I'm looking at the van, and I see OJ kind of slouching down, looking very, very upset. Now, look at here. He looked very upset.
He's doing like a voice, like it's obvious it's not like his real voice.
It's clearly not someone's real voice.
It's clearly like a phony phone call, but Peter's playing it like 100%
He doesn't
straight.
know.
Can you hear anything, Mr. Higgins?
It's just too much commotion. I be in the back of a news van, so I can't really hear that good, but I can see it all. And I see OJ. I see OJ, man, and he looks scared.
And then at the very end...
Thank you, Mr. Higgins.
And Baba Booey to y'all.
All of a sudden, Peter, this is Al Michaels. Al Michaels just strolls in.
From where, by the way?
Yeah, he's just there. Well, okay, so this is my theory, is that because it's a sports figure, that Al Michaels was like, I don't know if it's in the room or on the line or whatever the fuck. Maybe he was going to be called in next after the call or something.
Maybe,
right?
yeah.
Like, the point is they were obviously going to involve the ABC sports team in this because they have more know-how on like who is OJ Simpson, right? So
that's true.
And they're still like news people technically. So like that's Peter can work with that, right?
You know what? I didn't look into this, but in '94, this is before the strike of baseball. ABC was doing baseball games sometimes under the banner Sports Night in America, and Al Michaels was the lead commentator. I wonder if this interrupted an ABC baseball game.
Hello, because actually, it was ABC didn't start airing the games until July of that year. Well, and they weren't on Fridays anyway. It was called Baseball Night in America, not. Well, because you said Sports Night in America, so... Shut up! Okay, bye.
Well, he just butts the fuck into this conversation, like, after the click, after the hang-up, and he's like, Peter, that was a 100% farcical phone call. That was a code word to a famous disc jockey. Of something. Like, it was like...
vague as
like,
possible.
he wouldn't say Howard Stern, and it was, like, very annoying. Like, everyone... Like, literally everyone at home is yelling, probably like, it's a Howard Stern reference!
He knew.
Like, Howard was popular enough by this point that
Very.
people knew what the fuck Baba Booey was.
His friend, Al Cowling.
Peter, by the way, just for the record, this is Al Michaels. That was a totally farcical call. Lest anybody think that was somebody who was truly across the street. That was not. He said something in code at the end that's indicative of the mentioning of the name of a certain radio talk show host.
Okay, thanks, Al.
So he was not there.
Well, that was the point, is Al Michaels was very, like, deadpan about it. It was like he used a code, right?
Yeah.
But I saw an interview with Al Michaels from way after the fact, and he's like, I knew who. I'm a Howard Stern fan.
Yeah.
I just wanted to be very professional to Peter Jennings, right? Like, he was trying to keep a straight face when
But
he
also,
explained
Howard
this.
wasn't in, if you think about it, I don't know if this is true, but it feels like a somewhat Howard is not part of ABC. He was more associated with NBC and some other. Not even at that point. He was like at PLJ and shit. But I don't even know.
It wasn't PLJ. K-Rock.
He was on K. But who's K-Rock owned by? It's probably not ABC.
Oh, it's not.
It's not in the ABC family of like media things.
If
like,
anyone, I think it might be CBS.
Right. Exactly. So my point is maybe that was part of why Al was kind of like, I'm not going to like mention it because I don't want to get in trouble with my corporate overlords or whatever.
It's also not appropriate to be promoting Howard Stern during this like pretty tense moment.
Right. Either way, it was amazing that it even fucking happened. Because it's like for some reason just always resonated with me. Like,
well, because it's the way Al Michael farcical phone call,
phone code, yeah,
yeah, disc jockey or whatever.
Yeah.
It's like just funny.
I don't know if he said disc jockey or radio personality. It's something like that.
But before we got to that finale, by this point that this is on TV, people are watching in the street.
So yeah,
getting a glimpse of the Bronco.
So like any highway in America, there's obviously overpasses where other streets cross over the highway, right? People get wind of this shit going on, right? And I know we fast forwarded to the driveway just to say that far.
Just to get that.
But back to the, rewind back. So we're at the chase. And so people in California start realizing it's like, hey, if we go to like the overpass in our neighborhood or whatever, like we can see him,
OJ.
As long as we're not, he didn't pass us yet, we can like see him. So people start like getting on the overpasses and there's like signs like run OJ, run and all this shit.
This
like
is real.
People are like, this is like now a sporting event.
It's turned into a spectator event. Yeah, literally.
Like people like on every single overpass that they were going like past on the highway, you started to see like groups of people.
Yes, it's 100% real. And then as far as people watching on TV or people were watching at bars, people were ordering pizza. Didn't Domino's sales go like way up?
What's fascinating about it is that it went on long enough to start building its own weird fan base within the chase. Like a fan base that did not exist before the chase. By the time we're like, I would say 50% through, there's like
about an hour in, yeah.
There's like a whole like market being built around this of people like got to get my seat and like
got to order my pizza.
Like restaurants are getting business because of this. It was crazy. Like it was its own like the micro like OJ Chase economy was built around this. Like
the microcosm. Yeah. No, you're right. And again, this started around 6:45. Around 8 p.m. is when Al Callings drove OJ to the house in Brentwood that we were talking about. And to meet him there were 27 SWAT officers.
Mm-hmm.
And as we mentioned, this is when we got the Baba Booey call. Mm-hmm. OJ stayed in that fucking Bronco for 45 minutes.
Yes, it was long. And I just guessed. Did you look that up? Because it felt like 45. It
literally was.
It was like another show within the show.
Because now we just got a stationary camera shot of the Bronco in the driveway at this freaking house.
Now we're on another set.
It's Act 2, obviously, right?
I doubt that he will be leaving again. The police now know where he is. We have found him. The door is opening, and let's see what happens now. We'll watch with you.
And he went inside at 8:50. Robert Shapiro arrived on the scene, and OJ formally surrendered.
Okay, someone just got out of the vehicle, approaching the front door, dressed in black, and entered. Looks like they entered the front of the house there.
And that was it, as far as that night is concerned.
But I mean, let's be real. It felt like the trial happened immediately, but I feel like that's because the media coverage was nonstop until the trial. It was like it's like you never left this story.
Well, that's true. There was a preliminary hearing within June of '94 that was televised.
All right, we are once again on the record in the case of People v. Simpson. The defendant is present with counsel. The people are represented.
Normally, a preliminary hearing would not be televised for a case like this.
Right.
But because it's O.J. Simpson, but because it's also because of the chase, I think, that led to like the media interest.
Well, like we said, I think the chase was the lead-in to like why people cared as much as they did and why it became a hot debate in America. Did he do it? Did he not do it? That kind of thing.
Yeah, because the hearing led to all the media coverage between June and January when the trial formally kicked off in earnest.
Yes.
That's January 95. The trial ended in October of 1995. But this one night here was the catalyst for the media circus. But I want to ask you, Quinn, why? Why? Why do you think that? Was it because we were force-fed this all on one
I think
night?
that's a big part of it. I think there's a lot of people who normally would not give a shit about this stuff.
Is it more that than his celebrity status?
There's a lot of social aspects to this that were wrapped up in it that were not really exactly part of the chase. Celebrity and the politics that went with that. It was like a perfect encapsulation of a lot of the like tensions in America.
Do you think that if this was a regular layman off the street, but it was the same exact chase, I still think it would have been a pretty big media circus?
The same type of chase, yes, but the problem
because
is
of the
that
nature of it.
This type of chase would not have occurred had it not been that combination of celebrity involved. A normal person, they would have taken his car off the road.
You're right.
Like him say, that's what I'm trying to say. It's like I don't think it would not have been treated the same way, especially with the LAPD's known behavior.
I think it was just one of those perfect storms, of who it was, how it happened.
Yeah, like I said, they knew they couldn't take this guy out because it would be a disaster for the police department and for the local government and everything.
It would be a very big disaster. I don't know. It was just a fascinating time. It was weird because it was only, if you really think about it, it's memorable to so many people. It really only lasted 2 hours.
Right.
On a Friday.
But it didn't really last 2 hours because it ended up lasting 2 years.
That's true. Even longer depending on your perspective, right?
And it stirred up a lot of shit that was, even after the 92 riots, was still under the surface, right?
This is true.
Like in America.
Yeah. Folks, like I said earlier, we're not really here to discuss
the heavier shit. But I'm just trying to explain why people cared.
I think there's that. I think also whenever something out of the ordinary happens, even now, but especially back then, people find a sense of community in watching it together.
Right.
Which is weird, but true. It could be this, it could be anything strange, right? And then the other thing to remember, especially those of you that are younger, in 1994, even though there were a lot of television options, and you really had no options on this night except for other cable stations, right? Cable channels. Things like this were not readily accessible or visible anyway.
Right. There was no YouTube and you could just type, a car chase and just look it up, right? Like this was like, I'd never seen anything like this. I don't think I'd ever seen a car chase outside of a movie.
I don't think I had either.
Like I didn't.
Or Cops, like the show,
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, that's the other thing is that you had no choice but to watch this, basically. I guess you didn't have to,
You could have just not watched TV, but who didn't watch TV on a Friday night as a kid?
Well, that's a good point. TGIF, I mean, now we got to do this. But not only that, it was the fact that this was very rare.
Yeah.
That it interrupted everything.
I think a lot of kids were probably asking their parents, is like, does this happen? Like, what is this? I'm sure there was a lot of questions from children around the country seeing this while it was occurring, right? Because it was weird. They didn't try to shield it from anybody, which is very strange. Like they didn't it was treated like, oh, this is like a historical kind of thing, so your kids should watch it, right? That's
weird, yeah.
You know what I mean? Like this doesn't happen very often.
You know what's odd about
it's like somebody landing on the moon or some shit, right? It was like treated like
Same
that.
Thing. Yeah. What's odd about this is I happened to be at a friend's house watching the NBA Finals. I was almost 9 years old, but I was sleeping over his house that night. So I remember he had one of those big old big screen TVs.
Yeah, those like 50 inches back then was real big.
Yep,
right?
Where if you're at the wrong angle, you can't see shit. One of those.
Yeah.
But we were watching it on this, and I don't remember much. I don't remember what I thought at the time. I'll be honest. I just remember watching it, and then it was like you couldn't escape the OJ stuff after that.
I kept thinking. I remember specifically as a kid thinking, how much trouble is he in? For some reason, that resonated. I didn't know. Like, I was very curious about the consequences. Like, I didn't understand. Like, because it's not like somebody could just get away with just taking over the highway. Like, I don't think I even fully understood that there was like murderers involved or anything. Like I didn't really get why they were chasing him. I just knew that like he was doing something real bad by doing this.
Yeah,
right?
I don't remember if I knew the murder aspect either at the time, and that's why I found this to be just a
I think that
interesting topic.
I don't think that was really clear to me as a kid until the trial began, that it was about murder.
Yeah, well, definitely,
right?
yeah.
Like all I knew was that this guy used to be a football player, and they were chasing him, and I thought, oh, he must have done something real bad. Right.
Well, that's a fair assumption.
Right. It's but I didn't know. Like, I thought it was something like a traffic ticket. I thought like it was like the act of like what he was doing on the road was the bad thing. Right. It's
didn't return his rental car.
Something bad happened, and then they're because when you're a kid, you know about car accidents, and like he must have done something real bad on the road if they're chasing him around.
I will say this: as a kid, I thought it was him driving. I don't know when I eventually realized that it wasn't him driving.
I specifically remember a point where I think I was watching this with my mother, and we didn't know if he was driving, and then there was a point at which Peter Jennings or somebody said, oh, the driver is his friend such and such, and that was made clear. By the time we got to the house, I knew there was somebody else in the car like driving him.
Gotcha. Folks, we do want to hear this. I know it sounds weird to ask, but we want to hear, like, what were you doing, and what do you remember this? And I'm also interested to hear those of you that we have listeners in Canada, we have listeners in the UK, Australia, New Zealand, even.
Yeah, did this like make it over there?
Like, and on what level? Because it might have just been like a passing headline every now and then.
Yeah.
Did it make it over? Did the chase make it over there?
Specifically the chase, because I can see the trial making it everywhere, because that was like everyone shut the hell up about the trial. Yeah. but the chase itself was so fleeting. I don't know if it like interrupted European television and Australian television and whatnot.
Were you like watching Are You Being Served, and all of a sudden there's like a hello, Hal, we have a helicopter or whatever. Like,
there's a chase going on in California, USA.
United States of America, California on the West Coast. Let us know if that really happened, or
the BBC.
Or if you're on Canada, to interrupt, I don't know, something with Don Cherry. I don't fucking know Canada references.
Yeah.
Anyway.
I feel like Canada at least would know about this.
Probably.
It's close enough.
We're close enough.
Yeah. We're closer than some U.S. states to this.
Well, absolutely. I mean, Vancouver would be closer than we are.
Yeah, so I feel like Canada would be up on this.
But did they care? That's what we want to know.
Mexico, too, would be up on this as well.
Tijuana, not too far away either. But yeah, it was weird. It was one day in time, a couple of hours, in fact, that captivated America on a beautiful day in June of 1994. I don't know what the weather was, but it was in California. It was very nice out. You could see it was blue sky. Bizarre, fascinating, but truly, Quinn, I would say, an Acid Wash memory?
Yeah.
It is an Acid Wash. Okay.
Yeah, this is 100%.
Folks, we hope you understood our perspective here on what we were shooting for. Again, not to make light of what happened to the people involved, just to kind of talk about why America was so captivated that one day. That was the point here. We want to hear your memories, and be sure to follow us on Twitter at AWM Podcast and join our group. We will be back next week for, don't worry, something completely different. We're not doing like the trial next week or anything like that.
No, it's not part 2.
This series ends right here, okay? Yeah. But thank you so much for being with us. Please be sure to leave us a review. And one way or another, we hope to see you next time for more Acid Wash Memories.
See ya.
Like what you heard? Be sure to leave a review and subscribe on your favorite podcast app. We will see you next week.